Hi, it's Super Videos back at you for another Q&A video. This is going to be my Q&A number 12. Now before I get started, spoiler warning because I'm going to be talking about the TV show and the comic book of The Walking Dead, and if you're not caught up, you may not want to watch this video. So this is your official spoiler warning. So let's start with The Walking Dead show questions first. The first question comes from 0718 Dragon Lord, and they ask, in one of your earlier videos with subtle hints of the Lucille victim, when you pointed out Rick was doing something with his hands, what do you think he is doing? I think Rick is planning on throwing that in Negan's face and attack him after the Lucille scene. So that's what he had to say about it. That's what he thinks that's gonna be. In my opinion, I think we're either overthinking it and there's nothing to it, or if there's anything to it, it's just simply Rick grabbing a handful of dirt, squeezing it, and trying to control his anger. So he's doing that to control his anger so that he doesn't do something that he's gonna regret. So if he attacks Negan, Negan may kill someone. So he's just trying to control his emotions and his anger inside. That's all I think that is. The next question comes from Stephen Moraga, and he asks, do you think Aaron and Daryl should die together doing something important? I think that's definitely possible. During All Out War, they could definitely be doing something together, probably on a mission or to attack or something like that, that would end up with both of them dying. I think it fits the story a bit more if one of them dies, but it could be both of them as well. So I could see both of them dying, but it just feels better if one of them dies. But they could definitely be doing something important together in All Out War. The next question comes from TheBlackAntihero, and he asks, what do you think of people who say Shane is a bad guy when Rick is just like him? I thought that was a very good question. I've already talked about my opinions about Rick and Shane before in my other Q&As, but to sum it up, I think Shane was way ahead of his time. When he was saying the things he was saying back at the farm with the Randall situation, what he was saying parallels what Rick was saying when he was talking about attacking the Saviors. And basically, Rick, right now, is where Shane was before. Maybe even a bit more ruthless. Shane was a bit more lenient than Rick is right now. But to answer your question, I don't think there's anyone right now saying that Shane was a bad guy. I think by now we all understand that what Shane was saying had a lot of truth to it. It might not have been the best thing to do, but it doesn't mean that he's a bad guy necessarily. And I think everybody understands that, especially with Rick being where he is now and doing what he's doing now. So yeah, that was a great question. The next question also comes from Stephen Moraga, and he asks, do you think Gabriel will die in the show or replaced by another important character? I think Gabriel isn't dying anytime soon, at least not for now. Maybe in Season 8, but in Season 7 I don't see Gabriel dying, so we have to visit this question again in the future, because right now I don't think he's going to be dying. So I can't really speculate what's going to happen in the future, in the long term. So for Season 7 at least, I don't think Gabriel is dying. The next question comes from Zach Maddox, and he asks, do you think we will see Carl and Negan's story arc? I don't think we're going to see all of it, but we're going to get to see the most important parts of Negan and Carl's relationship. I want to see as much as we can, but I don't think there's enough time because there's so many characters, so many new communities, new characters. I think it's going to be difficult to fit all of Negan and Carl's storyline or their relationship into Season 7, but I think we're going to get to see the most important aspects of it. If you're a comic reader, you kind of know a few of these important aspects that I'm talking about that we're going to get to see in the TV show. The next question comes from Tobias T. Imperial Phoenix Rise, and they ask, is there any chance of The Walking Dead changing the location settings? I'm not a fan of the woodland settings. It has been overused, to be honest. I do agree that it's kind of been overused, but it's just what the world looks like now. In this new world, that's what you're going to see. It's going to be rare to see something other than just people trying to survive and walking in woods and trying to find supplies and everything like that. But I do understand where you're coming from, that it's kind of been overused, especially in Season 4. But I don't think there's a chance that they're going to be changing the location settings. If anything, we are going to see more settings like communities, like inside communities. rather than just outside and the woodland. But other than that, I don't think they're going to be changing settings like that, like what you're describing. Now let's move on to the Walking Dead comic book questions. The first question comes from Mason Bradshaw, and he asks a bunch of questions. I'm just going to answer it one by one. The question is, what villain group do you think they will introduce to the comics after the Whisperers storyline is complete? I think the villain is going to be someone related to the community Eugene is communicating with in the radio. It might not be them, but someone related to them. The next part is, what do you think they would be called? I can't speculate. It's too hard to speculate what their names are going to be. I hope it's something very unique and something original, like the Whisperers, like the Saviors, something like that. The next question is how their community would look like. I think they're going to have a big community of a lot of survivors, hopefully, and I want to see them be more strategic and maybe some kind of military, something like that. Not exactly military, but I mean using some strategies military personnel use, something like that. How they survived, a good leader. I want them to have a great leader who was a big part of their survival, something like that. Again, these types of questions are hard to answer. The last part is who can be their leader and what would his name be? Again, very difficult to answer. I want their leader to be a big leader, charismatic, someone like Negan, but a bit more human-like, because Negan, of course, there's no compassion at this point. I want someone who has a bit of compassion in him, even though he's a leader. I could put it this way. I want someone who is a combination of Ezekiel, Gregory, and Negan, who has characteristics of these individual characters. As far as their name, it doesn't really matter. As long as it's a cool name, I'll be cool with it. The next question comes from Mona Martinez, and she asks, what do you think about Rick killing Negan if they both survive the war? That's a good question. I think if both Rick and Negan both survive the war, I don't see one killing the other, because obviously if they're going to work together in the war and they're going to succeed in the war, when the war is said and done, they're going to come to terms with each other to some degree. At least to a point that they're not going to just kill each other. So because of that, I don't think we would see Rick killing Negan or even Negan killing Rick. But if it does happen, something like that, it'll be great if Rick kills Negan. I would also like to see maybe Carl kill Negan if that's going to happen, because I think that'll be cool to see. But it's also cool to see Rick killing Negan as well if it gets to that point. That's it for this Q&A video. Thank you for watching. If you want your questions answered in the next Q&A, leave your questions in the comment section below. Write Q&A before your comment so I can find it, and I'm going to be doing my next Q&A next week. I'll be back for another video.